Hello happy crocheters, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com and today I'm going to show you how to make this super bulky beanie. If you like this tutorial, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. For this hat, you're just going to need a few things. I am using 2 skeins of Wool Ease Thick and Quick by Lion Brand. This is a size 6 or super bulky yarn. I am going to be using a pom-pom at the top, but that is optional. You are going to need a crochet hook. The crochet hook I'm using today is an NP or a 10mm crochet hook. You are also going to need a yarn needle and scissors. So here's the hat we are making. It has a pretty cluster stitch pattern at the top and a rib brim. You can wear it as is and it will be really slouchy, or you can turn the brim up and it will fit more like a regular beanie. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are making the adult size hat. We're going to start by making a slip knot and inserting our hook, and then we are going to chain 9. The adult size hat will fit a head that is 20 to 22 inches in circumference. The written pattern also includes other sizes if you're looking to make a different size. So now that we have our chain, we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in every chain across. This is going to leave us with a total of 8 single crochets. I'm just finishing up my 8th single crochet. And now for row 2, we are going to work most of the row in the back loop only, except for the last stitch on one side. And that just gives you a nicer looking brim. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, single crochet in the back loop only. So go down the center of your stitch and out the back so that only one loop is over your hook. Yarn over and pull up your loop. Yarn over, complete your single crochet. So single crochet in the back loop only of the first 7 stitches. When we reach our very last stitch, we're going to work a normal single crochet. So you can see how I've gone under both the front and the back loop to create a normal single crochet. This just makes our project look nicer. As we move on to row 3, we're going to work this row in reverse. So I look for where my yarn end is. When it's on the opposite side, I know to start my row with a normal single crochet and then complete the rest of the row as single crochets in the back loop only. So I'm going to work a single crochet in the back loop only of the next 7 stitches. If it makes it easier, you can use a stitch marker to mark which side has that single crochet on it to make this easier for you. But adding that just makes the edge of our brim look a little nicer. Now all we're going to do as we get to the end of row 3 is we're going to continue repeating rows 2 and 3 until you have a total of 40 rows. Feel free to check out the written pattern for other sizes and it will tell you how many rows to complete for those different sizes. Here I've completed a total of 40 rows. I'm just going to insert my hook back in. And I just did that by repeating rows 2 and 3 in order to make our brim. Now I'm going to do a joining row. And to join my 2 rows together, I'm just folding my project in half. I'm going to take my hook and go into the first stitch. So I'm going to go under through the first stitch, and then I'm going to find the bottom of one of the chains for row 1. I'm going to go under that as well. Yarn over, pull through the 2 stitches, and pull through the loop on your hook. This is a slip stitch. We're doing a slip stitch join to finish off our brim, and this just saves us from having to sew the 2 pieces together. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and into the following chain that lines up with it. Yarn over, pull through the stitches, and pull through the loop on our hook. You'll make a total of 8 slip stitches in order to join your brims together. So here's my last slip stitch, and you can see that my seam is on the outside. So what I'm going to do is turn our work inside out or inside in. And now we're ready to work along the sides of rows 1 through 40 of the brim rows in order to work up and create our hat. To do this, I'm going to chain 1, and then we're going to go ahead and start working our cluster stitch pattern. So I'm going to chain 1, find the first row of stitches, and I'm going to single crochet into the side of that row. Then I'm going to find the next row of stitches, and working around the side of the stitch, I am going to make a cluster stitch. And what I like to do is, instead of just going under one loop, I like to make sure I go through under 2 loops on the side of the rows. I think this makes everything a little more secure. But I do need to make a cluster stitch, so in order to do that, I'm going to yarn over first, insert my hook into the side of the row, yarn over and pull up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, let me grab my yarn over, go into the same row, the side of the same row, and pull up another loop. We have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over once more and pull through 3. Basically what we've done is a double crochet 2 together, but working all in one stitch. This is what they call a cluster stitch. Now I'm going to find the next row and make a single crochet. Find the following row and make a cluster stitch. So yarn over, insert our hook. Again, I like to go under 2 loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the same stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. There you have it. We are going to continue repeating a single crochet and then a cluster stitch all the way around our brim. So we started with a single crochet, we should end the last stitch with a cluster stitch. So in this very last row, I am going to work a cluster stitch a little bit faster. And then we are going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet. And we will not be turning for any of the rest of our rows. We'll be working all in one direction. So moving on to row 2 of the body, we're going to chain 1, and we are going to start this time with a cluster stitch. So working into the single crochet of the previous row, we are going to work a cluster stitch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 3. That is our cluster stitch. We're going to follow that with a single crochet. You'll notice it's in a cluster stitch of the previous row. So we're alternating. And then we're going to follow that with another cluster stitch. So you're going to work a cluster stitch and then a single crochet and repeat that pattern all the way around your hat for this row. So we're just alternating the cluster stitch and the single crochet, starting with a cluster stitch and ending with a single crochet. So now we are going to end this row with a single crochet and then slip stitch to the very first cluster stitch. Now moving on to body row 3, it's going to be just like body row 1, but this time we're working into actual stitches. So we are going to start by chaining 1 and we'll work a single crochet into the cluster stitch of the previous row. So we're just alternating so that all of these cluster stitches are staggered. So we're going to single crochet and then follow that with a cluster stitch. So this row starts with a single crochet and will end with a cluster stitch. And we will continue repeating this stitch pattern all the way around the row. When you reach the end of this row, we will end with a cluster stitch and slip stitch to the very first single crochet of the row. Now you just need to repeat rows 2 and 3 until you have a total of 13 rows for the adult size hat. Again, with the other sizes, you would just work less rows, but the construction is the same, just the stitch count and the row count is different for the other sizes. So here you can see I have 13 rows worked. And now I'm going to go ahead and close up the top. Now if you wanted to gather the top, you could work 2 or 3 more rows and just gather the top. But I'm going to use single crochet decreases to close up the top of our hat. So to work our decreases, we are just going to chain 1. This is decrease row 1. And we are going to do a single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to go into the first loop, the first stitch, and I'm going to pull up a loop. Then I'm going to go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. So we're working over 2 stitches. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now moving to the next 2 stitches, we're going to pull up a loop in the first stitch and pull up a loop in the following stitch. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You are going to repeat this all the way around. This row originally had 40 stitches, and when we complete decrease row 1, we'll have a total of 20 stitches. When you reach the end of decrease row 1, go ahead and slip stitch to the very first single crochet. And feel free to mark your first single crochet for this last 3 stitches because sometimes it can be a little hard to find. As I just discovered, that first stitch was very hard to find, so I'm going to go ahead and use a red piece of yarn to mark my first stitch. For decrease row number 2, we are just going to single crochet 2 stitches together and repeat that all the way around. So this row originally had 20 stitches, and when we complete decrease row 2, it'll have 10 stitches. So we're just cutting the stitch number in half every single row. So go ahead and single crochet 2 together or decrease all the way around. Again, when you reach the end of the row, you are going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet. Now we are working our very last row. We are going to chain 1, and again I'm going to use this yarn just to mark my first stitch, and we are going to single crochet 2 together in every stitch around. We just need to do this 5 times because we are really getting the top of this hat nice and closed up, and it is going to be pretty tight on this row. But just single crochet 2 stitches together and continue repeating that until you've made it all the way around the hat. When you make it all the way around, we are just going to slip stitch to the very first single crochet, and then we're ready to fasten off. You can see how the top of this hat is already really closed up. We don't even need to gather those last few stitches. We're just going to sew a few stitches so that the little hole at the top is closed up. So I've just threaded my yarn end on a yarn needle, and I'm just going to make a few quick stitches to close up the top of our hat. And then I'm also going to use this yarn to secure my pom-pom. I have a pom-pom with a cute little loop here. So I am just going to pull that through that, make a stitch at the top of my hat, go back through the loop on the pom-pom because I like to secure it twice, but that is optional. And then we are just going to take this to the inside of our hat and knot it, and then our hat will be all done. So here we have our finished super bulky hat, and we can take this and we can fold up the brim, and it can be worn like this, more as a regular stocking hat, or you can keep the brim down and have it as a nice slouchy hat. So I really hope you enjoyed the video tutorial and you were able to follow along. Make sure to check out my other video tutorials if you like how I teach. And as always, you can leave me a comment below. But thank you so much for watching.